Welcome back, friends, for the long-awaited next episode of 250 Years of Freedom. Thanks for your patience. Now, Episode 18, Into the Fire. The War of 1812 begins. 27-year-old Master Commandant Oliver Hazard Perry looked back from the bridge of his flagship, and a furrowed concern crept across his brow. The USS Lawrence was outrunning his second lead ship, the USS Niagara, which had fallen behind in the poor wind. The USS Lawrence was about to take on a British squadron with the long-range guns that his own 20-gun frigate couldn't match. But once close, he knew the advantage would be his. It was now too late for second guesses. The lifeline of the British Army invading the Northwest Territory from Canada was this waterway, the highway which could bring victory to whichever nation controlled it, Lake Erie. Fearless Commander Perry knew today would be a decisive day for both nations. He charged the English, taking terrible blows until finally sailing close enough to deliver a counterpunch. The Lawrence sent powerful shots from her carronades, striking the two main British vessels, the HMS Detroit and HMS Queen Charlotte. But for 2 hours, Perry took a direct beating as the British were able to place all attention on him. The scene on board the USS Lawrence was one of utter carnage. Cannonballs sent deadly splinters flying as they smashed through the hull. Guns were dismounted, and 4 out of 5 crewmen lay dead as the deck ran with blood that threatened to overcome the sand laid down to soak it up. Commander Perry struck his battle colors, took down a personal flag and rolled it up, and set upon a rowboat with the remaining crew for a harrowing, suicidal 1/2-mile journey to the approaching Niagara. Every ship focused their aim on the tiny boat. Cannonballs splashed and bullets whizzed around them. The young commander unfurled his blue flag and looked at it. Its message challenged his conscience, yet filled him with resolve. It read, "Don't give up the ship." Was it too late? Had he just lost the War of 1812 for the United States? It began on June 18, 1812, when President James Madison signed a declaration that would again place America at war with Great Britain. 36 years after independence, the young republic stood toe-to-toe with the most powerful empire on earth. Britain ruled the seas. Britain commanded a vast army. Britain had burned capitals and crushed revolutions across the globe. America had miraculously escaped England's clutches once. Could they do it again now that the Americans had tasted the struggle of independent survival? Madison addressed Congress with solemn conviction. "We behold and find on the side of Great Britain a state of war against the United States." This was not a war of conquest. It was a war for sovereignty, for the right to sail free, for the protection of American sailors, for the honor of the sophomore nation. Not all Americans supported the war. New England merchants feared economic ruin. Some called it Mr. Madison's War. The nation was politically divided, but history often proves that unity is forged in the furnace of conflict. Just as ancient Israel quarreled before facing external threats, America had to settle its doubts before it could face its enemy. Ecclesiastes 3:8 reminds us there is, among other things, a time for war and a time for peace. The time for peace had passed. The war did not begin gloriously. In August 1812, American General William Hull surrendered Detroit to British forces and their native allies in shocking and humiliating form. As Britain was emboldened across the nation, critics cried out, "Had America made a terrible mistake?" But defeat has a strange power. It separates the fearful from the faithful. While the Army struggled, something remarkable happened at sea. The American Navy, tiny compared to Britain's fleet, began winning stunning victories. In August 1812, the USS Constitution met the British warship HMS Guerriere in battle. The Constitution's thick oak hull repelled British cannon fire. Sailors watched enemy shots bounce off her sides and cried out, "Huzzah! Her sides are made of iron!" From that day forward, she was known as Old Ironsides. The supposedly iron-hulled ship was captained by the appropriately named Isaac Hull, who commanded with brilliance. American gunners fired with precision. The Guerriere was shattered. The mighty Royal Navy was being outplayed by the young Republic. Soon after, Captain Stephen Decatur captured the HMS Macedonian. Then Captain Bainbridge defeated the HMS Java. 3 victories, 3 blows to the British pride. In Psalm 144:1, King David declares, "Praise be to the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle." The battle always belongs to the Lord. And for his faithful servant America, smaller size mattered not. But preparation and purpose rose on seas in the form of great victory. In September 1813, on Lake Erie, Commander Oliver Hazard Perry faced a British fleet that seemed to have victory all but final. His flagship floundered, destroyed in battle. Amid smoke and cannon fire, Perry's surviving men rowed through open water, miraculously arriving at the USS Niagara. Holding a blue flag that read, "Don't give up the ship," Master Commandant Perry raised the slogan, took command, and rallied his men. Never a man to admit defeat, he engaged the Brits, performing a classic naval maneuver called Crossing the T. The USS Niagara sailed through a narrow gap in the British formation, releasing deadly broadsides from his carronades into the bows and sterns of the British ships HMS Detroit and HMS Charlotte, led by Commander Robert Harriet Barclay. Barclay was a seasoned officer who served under the legendary Admiral Nelson and had lost an arm in the Battle of Trafalgar against Napoleon. He would suffer another injury in this attack. His ships, already damaged from engaging the USS Lawrence, were now heavily hit by the Niagara. The shredded rigging of the British ships became hopelessly entangled with each other. It was now the British who were sitting ducks as they were systematically beat into submission. The battle was over in 15 minutes. For the first time in history, an entire British naval squadron had been captured. Perry, ever the master of the moment, returned to the shattered decks of his ship, the USS Lawrence, to accept the official surrender. His famous message to General Harrison read, "We have met the enemy, and they are ours." Those words echoed across the Republic like thunder. This war mirrored a story every child of faith knows. In 1 Samuel 17, a shepherd boy named David stood before Goliath, a giant, armored warrior representing the best of a powerful enemy's might. David had no armor, no sword, no reputation, but he had covenant faith. It was he that declared, "The battle belongs to the Lord." The War of 1812 proved to be a mix of great victories and setbacks. The Canadian campaign was littered with failed invasions, poor conditions, inexperienced troops, and harsh terrain. National pride suffered. Proverbs 21:31 says, "The horse is set for the day of battle, but salvation belongs to the Lord." Preparation matters. Faith matters. These walk hand in hand toward triumph or apart toward disaster. Like Israel surrounded by hostile kingdoms, America stood surrounded by great powers. Both nations share this pattern. Small beginnings, fierce resistance, divine preservation, and strategic resilience. Both had to learn survival through devotion to faith, moral clarity, and courage. The alliance between America and Israel in our modern era reflects this shared understanding. Freedom must be defended, tyranny must be confronted, and faith sustains national resolve. We are finally regrounding ourselves in this truth today. When the might of the wicked outweighs the resolve of the righteous, all people end up suffering in darkness. By the end of 1812, the war was far from decided. There had been triumphs at sea, embarrassments on land, and political division at home. But something had changed. America had discovered something about itself. It would not surrender its sovereignty or be bullied on the world stage, and it would never abandon its sailors. The Republic had stepped into the fire and did not retreat. Tests of faith in the American experiment fueled persistence during the War of 1812. Israel learned in the wilderness that battles reveal identity. America found in 1812 that independence required endurance. Psalm 27 says, "Some boast in chariots, and some in horses, but we will boast in the name of the Lord our God. Young America again stood against an empire, not because it was large, but because it was free. Freedom, bolstered in faith, cannot easily be extinguished. The fire was raging, and America would need to walk through it. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one of 250 Years of Freedom.